Welcome to Space Weather Explorers Week. Today we're going to do some experiments with UV beads that will help us detect ultraviolet light in our environment. Ultraviolet light is a type of light that our eyes cannot see. It's called ultraviolet because it's just beyond the violet part of the visible spectrum of light. This light can actually help us. For example, our skin absorbs certain wavelengths of ultraviolet light and produces vitamin D, which is very important for our overall health. However, shorter wavelengths of ultraviolet light can lead to damage to the skin, including sunburns and eventually skin cancer. It can also damage the retina of your eyes, this ultraviolet light. And so you don't want to have a lot of exposure to ultraviolet light if you can help it. So ultraviolet light is a type of light that's just beyond the violet part of the visible spectrum. We sometimes call it UV for short, ultraviolet. In this activity, we're going to explore some ways that we can protect our skin from the sun. We're going to use some special beads that react to ultraviolet light, and we're going to gather some materials from around your home so that we can test them out and see which things will allow the UV to pass through and which things will block the UV. So the first items that we will use for our experiments are these kinds of beads that when you first purchase them, if they are not in direct ultraviolet light already, they will just be this kind of pale white color, which you can see against the black paper we have on the table. They're simply called UV beads, and you can find them at a number of different types of crafting stores, or you can look for them online as well. Again, they're just called UV beads. Then you'll want to go around your home and find some different materials that could act as a shield against the ultraviolet light source. Some of the things that you might consider are simple things like paper, trash bag, blue foam. You can get a t-shirt. I don't have a t-shirt here, but I have a piece of fabric that's similar. Aluminum foil, a cleaning glove, piece of glass. We can try out the ultraviolet blocking properties of different types of sunblock or lotions. And then the last thing, of course, you need is a source of ultraviolet light. And so for that, we are going to use a Blacklight. It's a compact fluorescent version. It's called a Blacklight because when you switch it on, it doesn't put out much light, but you can tell there's a little purplish glow to it, right? And I've got this little clamp to help us fix it onto certain things. If you don't have a Blacklight, you can always do this activity outside and during the daytime. As long as you have a reasonably clear day, there should be enough sunlight producing ultraviolet to activate your beads and allow you to do your experiments. So first thing we'll do is test out our beads. I've placed them underneath this mug here so that we can keep them completely in the dark so that there's no light falling on them at all. And then we'll bring in our Blacklight. So when I first reveal them, I haven't turned on yet the Blacklight, so they shouldn't change color. There's no other sources of ultraviolet in this room. Most of the light that's coming from the artificial lights in this room is all visible light only. So when I turn on the Blacklight, we can watch for the beads to change color. The more ultraviolet they absorb, the deeper the color change you see. So now we can actually do some experiments with the different materials that we've gathered from around the home. I've separated a group of beads that are unexposed to ultraviolet light. I've put them in two piles, and I'm going to use our cup to cover one of those. So this will be what we'll call it our control, right? This is the one for which things will not be changing during the experiment. And on this one, we will try different materials to see if they're good shields. And so let's pick a piece of material that we gathered. How about this blue piece of index card? So it's kind of thick paper stock. We'll cover the beads with it, and then we'll bring in our light source. And now that we see that those beads have changed to nice deep colors, we know that they've absorbed a lot of ultraviolet light. I'll turn off the light, and we can check now to see, did the beads underneath the card receive any ultraviolet light as well? And voila, they're still pale white, which means no ultraviolet light got to them, which means that the paper card is a pretty good shield. One of the things we should start doing is predicting whether or not these materials are going to work or not. So we got some fresh beads. We'll keep them covered until we're ready. And we've got this simple piece of white cloth, kind of cotton. It's got a weave, which you can see that when I hold it up to the cup, you can see through it a little bit. So we might want to predict, do we think that weave is tight enough to stop ultraviolet light, or do we think some ultraviolet light might get through it? So we're going to cover up our experimental beads, and we will now reveal these. Expose them to the black light. Notice that you can see this glow on the fabric itself. This fabric was most likely washed with a certain detergent. And some detergents actually, when they absorb ultraviolet light, they then release that light, invisible light, and that's a process that's all called fluorescence. So we can see now that our control beads have turned color again. So let's try it out. Let's see what happened to our test beads. Oh, look at that. I see just the faintest hint of a little color change in that one, and most of these others are pretty pale, which means that the fabric did a decent job of protecting us. So one effective way of protecting ourselves from much of ultraviolet light is wearing clothing. Let's test out glass. And right away, I can see that the color of the beads underneath the glass is changing. So this glass is not an effective shield against ultraviolet light. How about we try out some sunblock? And the way to test the sunblock, we don't want to put sunblock directly on the beads because that would get messy. So we need to have something which we know the UV light will go through and put the sunblock on that. So let's do a quick test and find out if like clear plastic, like a clear plastic baggie would work. Little piece is probably decent. So I'm going to put that just like we did with the glass. And let's bring in our UV light and we'll double check and make sure that the plastic actually lets UV through. And I see that it does. Do you all see that? The UV light is getting through the plastic bag. Okay, so what I'm suggesting we do now is we should put some sunblock on our plastic bag, and then we'll put it over the beads and we'll see if that sunblock works. Okay, so we've got our plastic baggie. We can take some sunblock. We'll try the sunblock with SPF 30. So let's spread it around the way we might on our skin. And we're going to put it over the beads. And let's see what happens. All right, well, we see that the other beads have changed pretty good color. So let's see if the ones under the sunblock changed color. Oh, look at that. A little bit, but not as much. So we can see that the sunblock is an effective shield. So here we have a thin sheet of aluminum. We'll put that over our beads on the right. So now let's reveal. Looks like aluminum foil is a winner. Let's try the good old rubber glove. And now, let's see All right. So drape yourselves in a whole bunch of rubber, some rubber sheet clothing. So here's a nice sheet, thin sheet of foam. Place that over. Nice dark color on our beads. Let's see how well the foam did. Foam did great. Let's see if that works any better than the clear plastic, which did not work. All right, and oh, look at that. So the black plastic blocked some of it, but not all of it. Let's try water. So let's start with a cup that has just a little bit of water in it. Okay, so we can see that the water, at least a little bit of water, was not a very effective shield. Now we'll try with a little more than half full of water. Okay. And it looks about the same color. So even that amount of water was not an effective shield. All right, we'll try our full cup of water. Okay. And even our full cup of water was not a very effective shield. So to recap the results of our experiment, we saw that a cup of water, the thickness of a cup of water was not very good. We saw that a plastic bag let that light right on through. We also saw that glass was not a very effective shield. Some of the things that we did find to be effective was black plastic was a lot more effective than clear plastic. We saw that paper did a good job of blocking ultraviolet light. We saw that thin rubber in a glove would block ultraviolet light. We saw that foam was an effective shield. We saw that aluminum foil was an effective shield. And we saw that sunblock, when applied onto the clear plastic sheet, was an effective shield. And we also saw that fabric, a nice tight cotton weave of fabric, was also an effective shield against ultraviolet light. So a fun thing you can do is you can get a pipe cleaner or some string if you like, and you can put these beads on there and make yourself a fun little bracelet or ankle bracelet if you like. You could also just put this on your backpack, something that you carry around with you, and that way, when you're out in the sunlight, you can see how dark the beads have turned color and see how much protection you need from the sun. Thank you for exploring ultraviolet light with us today. Please share what you've learned with your friends and your family so that we can all be safe in the sun, and invite them to do some of these experiments with you. If you'd like to learn more about other activities that we have at Space Weather Explorers Week, please visit our website and check out some of the links in the description below.